Welcome to our game today, and we're looking at how to get blood from a stone here. As Garry Kasparov shows us, even in a very drawest endgame, there's always opportunities to win a game. So let's have a look at this game from Linares 2005. Kasparov playing in the black pieces, and we're going to look from the white side, where Francisco Vallejo Pons was playing, just so that we can see what it's like to defend against a player of Kasparov's side, rather looking at from Kasparov's side of the board. So we get d5 by Kasparov playing black, d4, e6, c4, d takes e4, e4, so that the light square bishop can attack the pawn on c4. We get b5, a4, c6, and after trade-off of the pawns, we get this good move here on b3. So Kasparov plays bishop b7, attacking the pawn in e4. We get b takes e4, bishop takes e4, c takes b5, knight f6, bishop e2, bishop e7, castles, castles, knight c3, attacking the bishop. So the bishop goes back to b7, and we get bishop to f4. So we're seeing this as a very drawish game already. We're only 13-14 moves in, and we've got these two pawns here that are eventually going to be picked off, and we've got this isolated pawn here on the d file for white, and but hopefully they're white will be thinking maybe we can trade it off here and get rid of this weakness, and you're looking at a very drawish end game here. So we get bishop b4 by Kasparov, with the idea of if he can take away this knight, well then black's knight can jump into this wonderful outpost on d5. And can you just think of if he gets here, look at the attacking squares that he will have, also controlling these squares back here. So a wonderful piece, controlling the whole board if he can make this work. So pawn split goes to a4. We get knight to b7 to d7, stopping white from jumping in and getting its own outpost here. Then we get queen to b3, attacking the bishop, and black gets, Kasparov gets knight to d5 into this wonderful square. We get bishop g5, and we get bishop back to e2 to block. We get bishop to d2. We get a6, offering the trade-off of the pawns here, Kasparov, but here Pons decides to play b6. Now you can understand why. Pons is clearly trying to make the game interesting. He's only 2 squares away from promoting, but you might think, well, it's really has done no good anyway. He should have just traded off because he's only got 2 defenders and there's 3 attackers. So what's the idea by Pons? Well, let's just say Kasparov catches. Well, it's a terrible blunder because you can play bishop to a5, pinning this knight here, and now Kasparov is in a world of pain. Now Kasparov clearly is not going to fall for such a rudimentary trick at grandmaster level, but it certainly shows what Pons was trying to do. So we get e5 by Pons, knight takes e5. Sorry, Kasparov plays in this position and bishop to c6. We get knight to e5, attacking the bishop, and we get a trade-off of the knights. Now here, because of this dark square bishop being unprotected, the trick no longer works, because we get knight to b6, with the idea of if you now play this move trying to pin the queen, we play this move here, threatening checkmate, which means you have to trade off the pieces, and after going knight d5, Kasparov now finds himself up a pawn, and it's going to be a long game for Pons. So that's why this wasn't played. So in the game, we see Kasparov did take, and Pons takes the knight back. But because of this bishop being unprotected and the bishop beside it also being protected, Kasparov's quite happy to give up the exchange by giving up his rook. So he takes the bishop on d2, Pons takes the rook on a8, Kasparov takes the other bishop, so now getting the 2 bishops in the game. We get knight back to c7. Kasparov picks up this pawn here on e5, and in this position Pons is trying to trade off the queens. We see Kasparov has got this outside pawn, but it's not going to last very long. So realistically, Kasparov has given up the exchange for 2 pawns, but one of them is going to go, so he's got an exchange for a pawn. So again, computer favors Kasparov position very so slightly. This game is a dead draw, a very boring game. Not really boring, but a very, you know, long in game to try and prove any victory in this position. Of course, this is a position that we probably see someone like Hikaru Nakamura playing on stream in his blitz games and winning quite easily. And we see here Kasparov does indeed get blood from a stone because he goes on to win this in beautiful style. He decides to not trade off the queen, so after the rook here takes the pawn. Kasparov plays bishop to e4 with the idea of maybe going to the d3 pawn position, attacking both the rooks. So here Pons decides to go to a7, putting pressure on the dark square bishop. Here we get Kasparov playing bishop to c5, attacking the rook and also pinning this pawn to the queen. And here Pons plays rook to a5, which is a terrible blunder. Now, let's, as we said, we're imagining this as we're playing with white and Kasparov. So you're thinking, well, yes, we can give up the... I mean, Pons is a grandmaster. He's not going to miss the fact that he can give up his rook here with a check by Kasparov's bishop. But let's see what he was trying to calculate. So we get Kasparov takes the pawn, we get queen takes on f2 and queen takes on a5, attacking the knight. But this is what Pons had figured out. Well, if I play knight to e6, I've won back a pawn. And of course, here Kasparov cannot take because it's mate in one. And so from here, this is what Pons was thinking about. And this is indeed the position that we get. So in this position, there is one move, which is a brilliant move by Garry Kasparov that basically wins the game on the spot. Can you find what this move is? There's lots of different ideas maybe that you might think about, thinking of trying to trade off, but no matter what you do, you know, it's not looking great. This is the brilliant move, bishop to g2. Why is this a brilliant move? Because no matter what you do here, you've now got into an endgame with 3 pawns that Kasparov has for 1 pawn by pawns. So let's say you take, well then you take, and we've got 3 versus 1. Or let's say you take with the king, well now you can go d5 check, and again, whether you block, whatever you decide to do, you're going to pick up and you've got 3-1. So it was in this position how Garry Kasparov really, I mean, it was by a blunder by Pons, but to be fair, he absolutely managed to win a beautiful game here against Pons, taking blood from a stone, as we'd say, and winning a really drawn endgame. And Pons just resigned on the spot after bishop to g2.